Hey everyone, let's get Instagram started here. Welcome to week 17. We'll get going here with the questions and answers. Got to go live on Insta, and we are going to be set to go here. So click that. It should be in good shape. Man, week 17, every other year it was meaningless. This year, for those who are in the playoffs, it means everything. Fantastic. All right, here we go. Start out some questions here. Johnny Football, Taysom Hill or Trey Lance. So the 49ers ultimately have to come into this game deciding to run the ball. I know Lance is part of that. Elijah Mitchell is back, which is huge for them. Houston is one of the easiest teams to lead, to play with a run on, I should say. They should have a lead. I think the Texans are going to struggle with offense. So I think at the end of the day, Lance is going to get some as a runner. I don't know how often they ask him to pass the ball here. We love his weapons, but I know the one start, which is forever ago, and they played a much tougher defense. But Houston's good against the pass. So again, I think Lance has a great floor here. Taysom Hill, on the other hand, they're playing Carolina. Carolina is a good pass defense, but I think he is going to have a lot more called runs than Lance. Ultimately, I see this as a coin flip. I think Lance has ridiculous upside because unlike Hill, Trey Lance can give you, a 70-yard touchdown run. I don't think Taysom Hill has that in the tank for the most part. But I think Hill has a more stable floor because there's a world where the 49ers just say, you know what, Elijah Mitchell, carry us today. So that kind of. So I think it's a coin flip, but I think Hill is safer. If you need a 40-point game out of your quarterback, it's going to be Lance. But I think Hill is around 20. He's got 23, 24. I think he's safer with that. Both running quarterbacks here. Obviously, again, Lance is the weapons, but I don't know how much they have to throw here. So, again, Hill for floor, Lance for big upside, but a floor on him too. All right, Johnny, you got Cole Beasley, Brandon Cooks, Tyler Boyd, Chase Claypool need too. Beasley had been really on and off, and more off than on after the first few weeks of the season when he had some things going here. I mean, Atlanta's a great matchup, but I think Stephon Diggs can have a huge game here. I know they're not going to run much. Manny Sanders, I don't know if he's playing. If he doesn't, I think Gabe Davis is a big part of this game plan. With the lack of a pass rush for Atlanta, I don't know how much they need the slot here. They can have time to throw. Cooks is an elite play this week. The 49ers will play with a lead most likely. They're a pass funnel. They're 21st against the pass. They get killed by wide receiver ones, and they really have nobody to hang with him. Tyler Boyd, not as much here because he plays in the slot. I mean, and Kansas City, Tyrann Mathieu will mix it up. They'll have another corner in the slot. L'Jarius Sneed could be in there. I think it's a bad matchup for Tyler Boyd here. Claypool, Myles Garrett's a little bit limited, and that's going to help. And it's Ben's last game at home. I know it's narrative. Brandon Cooks for sure. And here's what I'm going to say for the other one, though. I'm going to say Boyd still has a floor. So Cooks for sure. Boyd, if you want like an 8-point floor. But Claypool, I think, is a good play this week because I do think they're going to have a little more time than usual to throw. I think they're going to play with a deficit. So, again, Boyd for floor. Claypool could get you 15 in this game, but he could also get you a low output. But again, so that's the way I'd candy everyone. All right, Insta, let's see if we got any questions here, and I'll come back to Happy New Year, everybody. I see a couple people saying that, and I said it to everybody. Happy New Year. All right, let's see what else we got here. We have got CD or Penny. Oh, that's a good one to have. Penny is a great setup here. I mean, Seattle is going to do very well on the ground. They're playing Detroit. Detroit is number 29 against the run, and Pete Carroll wants to run all day. It's not going to be a bad weather game or anything, but Penny's going to probably run for over 100 yards, and I do have him in a parlay to score a touchdown this week. CD Lamb, on and off with the targets. Amari Cooper complained last week, and he got targets, which is huge for him. I don't know if that balances back out. Arizona, DVOA-wise, against slot receivers, they're low, so it's a great matchup. The likelihood of that game shooting out is high. It's a tough call because I think Penny, believe it or not, has a safer floor because he's going to get 15 carries, I imagine, here in his sleep. So that gives him a floor, and he's been showing the big playability we liked from him when he came out. But also at the end of the day, he's had 2 big games out of 3. He didn't do well when he had a bad matchup. CD Lamb is anytime he can go off for 150 and 2 touchdowns. So Penny safer. They both have upside. CD may have a little more upside because I think he is a multi-touchdown game more in his range of outcomes. I think ultimately, if you want safe, it's got to be Penny. That's a tough call, man. It's a real tough call. Will Allen's and Robinson play? He's expected to play. I heard he lost 10 pounds due to COVID. I don't know what his conditioning is, but 10:30, 11:30 Eastern time, we'll know what the real deal is. I'd be nervous because he hasn't had a good game all season, and I know can't be 100% for losing 10 pounds. Chab, I'm coming back to Twitter and YouTube in a minute. You'll see those questions, but Insta, you guys can't see those. Bateman or Marquez Valdes-Scantling? I like Valdes-Scantling here. He's been getting a lot of targets in most games when he's been playing. And against Minnesota, they're really compromising the secondary, and a lot of resources they do have got to go to looking at Devontae, and they've been throwing it to him. So I think Valdes-Scantling is a very strong play. He doesn't have that zero floor like he's had in the beginning of the season. It's not quite there. So I do think he's a very good play. Bateman, it's tough because, they're playing the Rams, and I know the Rams are a little hit and miss, but overall, they're putting a lot of pressure on Tyler Huntley, and I think he's going to be in trouble if they're trailing. So I think Valdes-Scantling is a safer and a higher ceiling play both. All right, any other one more instant question? I'll come back to Twitter and YouTube. Mr. Elmac or IMAC, Ramondre or Saquon? Yeah, tough. Saquon's been terrible, and they're on the road to Chicago. He's splitting work with Devontae Booker. Booker's had more yards than Barkley in the last 4 weeks, believe that or not. Stevenson, the probability of Stevenson being the closer back against Jacksonville are very strong. He could see a lot of second half carries. So that said, Barkley is guaranteed a certain number of touches, where Stevenson isn't. So Barkley may not have a great upside, but he got a solid floor. Chicago hasn't been lights out against the run, but I think Stevenson's your upside play. So if you need 8 to 10 points and you try to bank that, it's Barkley. If you need 15 or so, Stevenson has a better chance of reaching that than Barkley. All right, come back to Twitter and YouTube here. All right, let's make sure I get all these questions here. Johnny, Patterson, Foreman, Burkhead, knee one. Hate Burkhead's matchup. Loved it last week. He crushed in that. This week's matchup, 49ers, they're not just number 2 against the run. They're great against receiving backs. He's in trouble. Foreman playing Miami. Yeah, Miami's not a bad matchup. It's not a great matchup. Miami is middling against the run, and they run block well. I think Foreman's the safest of the 3. We don't know what we're getting from Patterson for sure. We don't know how much Jonathan Williams will be involved. We don't know even if Wendell Smallwood will be involved. Patterson's getting the start. So I'd say this. I think Foreman doesn't have much of a ceiling, but he's got a good floor. So I think he's the bankable one. But I think Patterson, if it spins his way and he gets 60 to 70% of the touches, he has more upside, I think, than Foreman. Philadelphia's been middling, again, their run defense, and I think Patterson can be used as a receiver. So Foreman is your safest play, but I think if you need 12 to 15 points, I think Patterson has a better chance of getting you there. Jay Red, Buffalo or the 49ers defense. Defense are so fickle. It's like which one's going to score a touchdown for you. They both have phenomenal matchups. Actually, the 49ers being weaker against the pass, Davis Mills probably has an easier time moving the football. Buffalo, Matt Ryan's awful, and that's just when he throws 400 yards with 5 touchdowns, right? But that said, in Buffalo, cold weather, 19 and foggy, which could be good. I would bet on Buffalo here more than I would on the 49ers, and Buffalo's a better defense overall. Mr. IMAC, thanks, man. I appreciate that. All right. Johnny, Matt Prater, Robbie. I'm terrible at kickers. I have the worst luck in the world. I could give you good analysis on that game. Prater's been missing some field goals. Gold hasn't. 49ers are going to score points for sure. In that Arizona game could shoot out. I'm terrible on kickers. You really don't want to trust me on a kicker call. Whatever when I tell you, take the opposite. I think Robbie Gold is safer. Prater's been missing kicks. But, luck-wise, that's a kicker is just a luck pick. So I can't. That's what I'm going to say, Robbie Gold. PPR, Mitchell or Swift. Oh, man. DeAndre Swift's back in his role. Supposed to have a full role. He practiced in full as early as Wednesday. So that's a positive. And so, certainly Swift against Seattle. Seattle's tough against the run, but receiving backs, they're bottom 2, and that's what Swift specializes in. PPR, I think, helps you here. But that could be a low-scoring game. Seattle tends to like to slow it down a bit. Mitchell, Shanahan said to get all the work he can carry. So, and Houston's like a horrible, horrible run defense. So Mitchell could go for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns here. Honestly, Mitchell's safer, and they have similar upside because Mitchell could go off. He could go absolutely off. If you're worried at all that Mitchell's not 100% there, I think they give him plenty of time off. You'd go to Swift because Swift seems healthy. I think Mitchell is safer with similar upside. I would go 55 to 45% Mitchell. Jay Red, I'll come back to Insta in a minute, guys. All right. I need 2 flex in a PPR, and it's not pretty for none of us. Pringle, Gesicki, Treadwell, Perryman, Beasley, Duke Johnson. Yeah, you're right. This is ugly. Perryman, I'm getting worried because Mike Evans is questionable. It's supposedly Adam Schefter says he's going to play a limited role. And if that's the case, Perryman won't see the field much because he's not a slot guy. And we know Antonio Brown's been on the outside. Evans is outside. So we worry about Perryman there. I think that Cincinnati KC game, Cincinnati's pretty good on defense. They're not great, but I think that with Tyreek should be fully healthy. He was apparently very compromised from COVID last time. And there's a great spot for Kelsey. So that's a rough one. Gesicki, he's been terrible. I mean, he's been getting 40 yards in most games, so he's got that. Treadwell, actually, I just don't like the matchup, but he's banking 50 yards a week. So I think you got to go with Treadwell here. He's been consistently doing that, and it should be garbage time. He should get something there. Duke Johnson is splitting the work with Lindsey last week. That was an amazing thing. Tennessee's been pretty nasty against the run lately. They're middle of the road otherwise. And Beasley's kind of been not a regular contributor on the offense lately. I think Treadwell and Johnson are your floor plays here. Beasley's a dart throw. Because I don't think they needed slot here. There's no pass rush. So it's not like he's going to have to get the ball out quickly. He's going to have time. I think he wants to throw it outfield here. With Gesicki, I'm just trying to think here. Tennessee's been really nasty against tight ends. Crazy as it sounds, my recommendation would be Treadwell and Duke. But if you have any gut feel, you got to go with that. All right, let's see here. If anybody on Insta here, any other questions here, come back here. All right, you won't see these on Twitter and YouTube, guys. Sass Web. Should he start Amon-Ra St. Brown despite weather conditions in Seattle? The latest I saw is we're looking at 38 drizzle, 10-mile-an-hour winds. So I don't think the weather's an issue. Boyle got it done with him last week, but, man, counting on Boyle doing it 2 weeks in a row, that could be a little frustrating. Seattle is middling against slot receivers. Barkley, Burkhead, Van Jefferson on the bench. So Burkhead I don't like. Matchup against the 49ers is nasty. They're not just the top 2 run defense. They're top 7 against receiving backs. Saquon, he has a floor. Saquon has a floor, but he hasn't had a ceiling, and he's splitting work with Booker, and Booker's out yardage in the last 4 weeks. That said, St. Brown is probably your floor play. He probably has the best floor of all these guys. But Van Jefferson is in a great spot, but he's risky. Because when they throw the ball, like when Stafford throws less than 30 times, he only gets 2 to 3 targets. When he throws 38 times, Jefferson gets like 7, and Baltimore is like horrid in the secondary. They lost Everett, who was their last decent corner. He's out. So I would say if you need a real safe play, St. Brown is going to get you a decent floor. But I don't know if he has those upside games he's had the last few weeks. I just think Tim Boyle is going to kind of burst at Seattle. I don't think it's going to be as good. And with Swift back, I think that takes away some potential work for him as well. Van Jefferson's your upside play this week. I think Van Jefferson's in a great spot. If he gets you 6 or 7 targets, he has a great chance for 70 yards and a touchdown. But again, St. Brown's your floor play. Mr. IMAC, Ronald Jones on a smash over spot. So the Ronald Jones thing is interesting because, you see, technically it's a smash spot, but it's also a smash spot for the pass game. The Jets are bottom of the barrel against the run and the pass. So basically, whatever the Bucs want to do, they'll do. But if the Bucs get a big lead, don't be surprised to see Keyshawn Vaughn be the second half closer back. That wouldn't surprise me at all. He did it a little bit last time. So Damian Harris, though, Jacksonville's better against the run than they are to pass. He's going to get his work, though. He's going to get 70 yards and probably a touchdown. So Harris is safer. Ronald Jones could break a long touchdown, and we've seen that last year. Harris is safer. I think because Ramondre Stevenson, it's the same thing as a deal. Stevenson's going to be the closer back there. So I think Harris is safer because Ronald Jones, ultimately, if he fumbles, man, he'll get yanked out of the game and he won't see the field again. And I know Bill Belichick is that way, but Arians doesn't give Jones anything. If he blows a pass block, he's out. So I'm going to say Harris is safer. They both have similar upside. And just because Bruce Arians, the way he handles Ronald Jones, since you have a great other option, that's why I'd recommend Damian Harris. Trust your gut on that. Chab, Zay Jones or Bateman? I don't like Bateman here because I think the Rams get a lead. And I think if they get a lead, that pass rush comes home. And I don't think that Tyler Huntley is going to have a lot of time to throw. He had positive game script against Green Bay for the most part, and that helped him. Zay Jones is going to get his targets. Indy, wide receiver 2 is their number 3, so there's that. Zay Jones is getting targets. So I think ultimately Zay Jones has a better floor, But that said, I don't like Bateman's matchup. I don't think Zay Jones has any upside. Indy doesn't give up big plays. So I think Zay Jones gets you like 6 to 9 points, somewhere in that range. But if you need 15, Bateman's the only one that has a chance of doing that. Zay Jones really doesn't. And so Bateman could have a scary low floor, but Jones is ultimately safer. Sassweb, you're welcome. And I make you're welcome. Yeah, good luck at your championship game. All right, Twitter, YouTube questions. Keep coming here. B. Ollie, Herbert or Huntley. So you just heard me a minute ago. The Rams is not a good matchup. The Rams got legitimate pass rush, Aaron Donald. They've got Von Miller, and the secondary hasn't been phenomenal. But the Rams overall have been a good defense. So they're 7th in pass DVOA, and I know Huntley gets his on the ground, but this may not be the matchup where that happens. If game script is against him and the Rams kind of have to expect them to go to that route, I don't know that Huntley has that same upside. At the end of the day, he's still a backup quarterback. We love the rushing upside. Justin Herbert, and here's the other thing. Justin Herbert's playing Denver, and Denver, he did throw 299 with 2 touchdowns last time he played him. Now, Denver has some injury issues here. Let me actually look at those for you. Denver has COVID issues. So they're without nose tackle, strong side linebacker, weak side linebacker Bradley Chubb, Bryce Callahan a corner. So based on those player losses, this game is in LA. I'm going to give Herbert the nod here because I think ultimately, although you can run on Denver, the Chargers really don't want to run. So they prefer to throw. And I think Herbert has the ceiling here. And he has the floor because those player losses are huge. Callahan's a huge loss because he'd be on Keenan Allen when he moves to the slot. That's going to be big for them. But they got to rotate their other corners around. But being without the linebackers, too, they attack in the middle of the field. Eckler in a screen game. That's going to be problematic for them. So I am going to say Herbert here. But if you have a gut feel on Huntley and you feel he's going off, you got to trust your gut in championship week. Jay Red, Burrow or Lance? KC's been really, really tough against the pass, but Burrow has elite weapons. And when you get the pass rush, he gets it out quickly. And T. Higgins is a monster after the catch. That's been amazing. Chase is more a downfield guy, and KC hasn't been giving that up. Lance is going to run some. I think they're going to handle Elijah Mitchell a lot. I don't know how much they're going to throw. If they get a lead, they're going to just stick to the run game. So I don't know if Lance – the game script has to go a certain way for Lance to have the upside that we want him to have. Ultimately, if they're leaning on Mitchell and the run game's going well, they may just drain clock. And the last time we saw Lance, they didn't even let him throw. They hardly let him throw. So I think ultimately in your championship week, you've got Burrow. There's a good chance that game shoots out, and they're at home. I think that helps. I think that if I'm in a championship game, I trust Joe Burrow more than I trust Trey Lance in a second start. Houston they may be a bad team, but they got a professional defense. They got a lot of veterans on there. They're bad against the run, but they're good against the pass. Even if Lance goes to throw, I don't think that works out so well. So Burrow's not going to get 35 points here. Burrow's going to get you 20 to 25. I think that's a solid game there. Little downside from there, a little more. So if you're fine with that, I think you got to go that route. Could Lance run for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns? Yes, he can. He can run for that. Predicting it's tough. So I would go with Burrow, but if you need a monumental, colossal game out of your quarterback, I don't think Burrow's having that against the Chiefs. So that's where you'd look at Lance. I think sometimes in a championship game, we get tantalized by seeing a running quarterback in there. But you got Joe Burrow, and he's been playing at a pretty high level, and he's done well against pressure. So I think that's where I go. All right, Gabe Davis or Donovan Peoples-Jones. So I think this all is dependent upon if Emmanuel Sanders is active, and we won't know that for another 15 minutes. But this is for you, this is simple. You'll just look up the inactive report when it comes up. And if Manny Sanders is active, I think you got to go Donovan Peoples-Jones because Gabe Davis doesn't see the snap share. And I think in this game against Atlanta, I don't know how much they're going to need him. He's been fortunate, Gabe Davis. I love Gabe Davis. He's one of my breakout guys, but he couldn't see the field because they say stubbornly put Sanders and Beasley out there. But nonetheless, if Beasley's in, if Sanders is in, I think Davis' snap share goes down, and I think that makes him harder to start. But if Sanders is out, wheels up on Davis. Davis could have 100 yards and a touchdown here. Donovan Peoples-Jones is really hit or miss, but again, he's a starting receiver, and against Pittsburgh's bad against the run. They're decent against the pass, but they can get play action and get something going there. So hopefully Manny Sanders is out and you go with Gabe Davis. Otherwise, I think you got to go DPJ. All right, let's see what we got here. B-Alley, half PPR, Patterson or Keyshawn Vaughn. So Patterson is supposed to start. We don't know how much of the work Jonathan Williams and even Wendell Smallwood are going to get, but there's something that at least Patterson's supposed to start. That helps. Keyshawn Vaughn, I think what you're really banking on, I remember last week he had a 54-yard touchdown run. It kind of skewed his numbers a bit, which is great. If they get a big lead, there's a chance that Vaughn closes the game out against the Jets and does really well in the second half. But this is how I look at it. And this is the very simple answer. And I give this answer a lot, but it's true. Patterson is your floor guy. Patterson is going to get you probably 8 to 10 points. Probably going to get that. Most likely. Don't know how much he gets subbed out, but he should get that. Vaughn has a scary low floor. If the game somehow is closer than we expect, which is possible, Vaughn may not see a lot of run. And in that case, he has a scary low floor. But if he gets the closer job in the second half with a big lead, he could put up 80 yards and a touchdown in the second half. So Vaughn is your risk-reward guy. So if you got to take a swing for the fence because of your matchup, then it's Vaughn. But if you got to bank those safe running back points, I think I go with Patterson because he has, at least right now, seemingly a more established role. See if we have any Insta questions here. Right now, no. Feel free to ask away, and I'll get to them. And you're welcome. Okay. All right, Laura and Jim Cooperman are next. Oh, I see I got Len Hochberg in the tank. All right, Len. Yep. All right, Laura and Jim Cooperman, here you go. I'm glad you're in the finals. Excellent news. PPR, you need 2 running backs. Pollard, Ogunbowale, Boston, or Javonte. So, all right, so we'll start there. You need 2 running backs. Javante's tough to sit because the Chargers are very bottom of the barrel against the run. There's a world now. Fortunately, Cortland Sutton is kind of expected to play, so the defense I think kind of has to play them straight up. Well, Brandon Staley anyway, he's not going to come in to stop the run. That's not his mo. His mo is it's a passing league. We stop the pass. So I think Javonte is in a great spot here. Chargers are not good, and I believe Justin Jones is out for them, which is a huge loss. And that's a huge loss in their run defense anyway. So I think you got to go. You've been riding him all season. I think you got to go with him. Boston Scott's in a great spot here because basically Jordan Howard is kind of expected to play. He's got a neck injury, but he's still going to play the Jordan Howard role. Boston Scott walks into the Miles Sanders role, and he's been productive. They're a great run blocking team. They have the quarterback who's mobile, opens up the space by freezing the linebackers a bit. So I think those are both high floor, reasonable ceiling plays, Boston and Javonte. Ogunbowale, you're hoping that, as expected, the Pats get out to a big lead. The Pats are great against the run, but they're bottom barrel against receiving backs, and Ogunbowale would be he'd catch passes late. But I think that his floor is scary compared to Boston and Javonte. Tony Pollard, he just doesn't get enough work compared to your other two because he's Javonte will get work around the goal line where Zeke's getting the goal line work. To me, I'm pretty safe on Boston and Javonte because of the floor ceiling combo. Pollard is dependent on a big run or two to kind of come through. And he's still dealing with the foot. His foot still isn't 100%. So I'd say receivers, Davis, Galladay, Treadwell, Pringle. Treadwell has the floor. Treadwell's been getting 50 yards a game. I think that's reasonable. Pringle, the problem is he had that big game, but Tyreek Hill played very limited snaps. The COVID really took a toll on him. He should be healthy this week, so I think the targets go way back down here. So I think that's Pringle's real dicey. Gabe Davis, if I said earlier, a different listener, if Manny Sanders is out, Gabe Davis is auto. Galladay got Jake Fromm throwing the ball, and there's our problem. He's the only receiver they have. They have Farrell Cooper from the practice squad. I mean, Galladay's got to get – I know the Bears play zone, but they got to double him, you think, especially if they're leading. So I don't – and then Galladay hasn't done much. So I think it's got to be – so here it is. Treadwell is your floor guy. If Manny Sanders is out, it's Gabe Davis. If Manny Sanders is in, Gabe Davis may not get snaps. So I would almost say Galladay would have to be in that case. So let's hope Manny Sanders doesn't play. And then – Dalton Schultz, I keep saying eventually Dallas is going to throw the ball to their superstar receivers. And they're going to say, why are we throwing this ball all day to the tight end? But he keeps getting it. And until that doesn't happen, and I know it's week 17, I think you got to play Dalton Schultz because he's shown he can get you 80 yards and a touchdown, where a lot of these receivers on your list can't do that. So I think you got to go that route almost. Iron Eddie, half PPR. Pittman Jr. or OBJ? You know what? I'm hoping that Sean McVay coaches this game properly. The Ravens can't be run on. They're top 4 run defense. They're bottom against the pass, and they lost their only healthy corner, Anthony Everett, and they were bad with him. If Sean McVay looked at this game tape at all, he said, you know what? I know we've been balanced, but we got to throw this week because that's the way we kill them. OBJ to me is an elite play this week. OBJ should get you 75 yards and a touchdown this week. That's what I would expect. So OBJ is the guy. To me, he's in. You need 2. Move above these 2. If Sanders is out, I do put Gabe Davis ahead of Pittman because I think that they're going to run the ball heavy on the Raiders. I think Carson Wentz can't be fully ready. If he just cleared protocols like this morning, they say because they moved him off the list yesterday and they tested him, I guess, late last night. To me, he hasn't practiced this week. He hasn't been good. If Sanders is out, I think Gabe Davis has higher floor and a same ceiling as Pittman. So that's what I'd say. But OBJ to me is the guy because that matchup. Again, I'm expecting that Sean McVay coaches to his opposition. I can't predict that, but it's so obvious. I don't know how he misses it. All right. Foxborough News. Dario Gunbowale or Deontay Foreman. Flex 16-man head-to-head points. All right, so Foreman has a higher floor. Foreman is going to get you 50, 60 yards, decent chance to score. He's your floor play. Ogunbowale, what you're hoping for is this. Patriots are not good against receiving backs. Ogunbowale is not going to get much in a running game. They actually have offensive line. I'm going to double-check their offensive line situation here. Their left tackle, their center, and their right guard are not playing. So running interior isn't going to happen. But if it's a big lead, the Patriots are bottom 4 against receiving backs. There's a world where Ogunbowale catches 6 to 8 passes, and he gets you some PPR goodness. Foreman is safer. I don't know how much upside Ogunbowale has. His odds of scoring a touchdown could be a little small because I don't know how often they get in the red zone. So I think overall, Foreman is the safer play. I think he has similar upside to what Ogunbowale has. Ogunbowale presents more risk, but the receptions could be there, and that part is a good part of the matchup. All right, let's see what we got here. Iron Eddie. Half PPR, you got a bench 1. Najee Harris, Montgomery, Ronald Jones, Michelle, and Penny. Oh, man. You know what? You have such great options. The 2 it's going to be between for me is between Ronald Jones and Michelle. So, again, as I was saying earlier, Michelle's been great. But they are playing a Baltimore team that's lights out against the run. I don't know if Michelle can make that breakthrough here. They're top 5 against the run, but again, they're just nasty and they're in Baltimore. And if McVay coaches this up right, they're going to throw the ball. Ronald Jones, on the other hand, is a beautiful matchup. But if he blows a pass block assignment, if he fumbles the ball, man, Bruce Arians has no tolerance for Ronald Jones's mistakes. So if he makes a mistake, he's screwed. So I think that's what you're between here. If Michelle still should get double-digit carries, he should get, if the coaches it right, it's about 12 carries. We're not seeing 18 to 20 because the Ravens, that's foolishness. So Michelle should get you 45, 50 yards. There's a chance to score. They get near the goal line. Yes, he definitely could score there. Ronald Jones has more upside. Ronald Jones is a lower floor because if they get a lead through the passing game, Keyshawn Vaughn could be the closer back. Michelle's not going to sit for anybody. So Michelle has a way higher floor because he's their back. Don't have anybody else. Akers ain't playing, apparently. So that's going to be your choice. You want a stable floor, Michelle. If you got to swing for 18 points, Ronald Jones has a chance to do that. I think you're definitely playing Najee, Montgomery, and Penny. All right, let's see if we have any other Insta questions, guys. Let's see. Right now, no. If you have Insta questions, pop those up there. I'll get you guys. All right, let's go continue here. JSK 512, Odell or Mike Evans. You know what? I said earlier, if Coach McVay coaches this game properly, the Ravens can't stop anybody's passing attack, and they certainly can't put extra resources on Odell. A, they don't have him, and B, Cooper Kupp is there. So to me, Odell is a great play this week. And Mike Evans, look, he's limited. He's got a hamstring. He's coming off the COVID list. they're playing the Jets. How much do they have to throw it to them? That worries me. Will they compromise? Will they have a setback? So to me, Odell is just safer. He's just safer here. And the matchup just dictates the Rams got to throw. Again, will the coach screw it up? It's possible. All right, let's see what we got here. Lynn, good to see you, man. Is anyone a good play in a 5-degree night game? The running backs. Oh, my gosh. Yes. Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon are good plays this week. Minnesota is not only have they fallen in the run defense, they've gotten progressively worse, but their left defensive tackle, Michael Pierce, is out. That's a big loss for them. And Green Bay is a huge favorite, so they probably lean on their running game. And in the second half, I think Dillon really, really gets things done. I think he's the closer back here, and I think he can have a big second half. But Aaron Jones could get it done in the first half. And, Minnesota used to be really great against receiving backs. This year, not so much. They're a little below average. So I think both running backs can get it done here. I think Green Bay can score a lot of points. So, yeah, I think so. And then, obviously, Devontae Adams is always a great play. They play in the winter all the time, so they love that. I mean, really, the Green Bay offense wheels up. All of them, honestly, all of them, because that's their home field. They live for that, right? You see them in playoff games throw up 34 points. And so, yeah, I think they are. Now, the other side of the ball, I mean, man, can Sean Mannion get the ball to Justin Jefferson? You have to think he can do something. I don't think it's a ceiling game for Jefferson because with Thielen out, Conklin limited. I mean, Dalvin, you know what? I think that Dalvin Cook's a good play. Dalvin Cook's going to get 25 to 30 carries if the game's at all close. Even if it's not, he'll get reception. So, yeah, I think maybe more than not. Good question, man. All right. Let's see. We got a couple questions on Insta here. We got one. You want to see this on the Twitter, YouTube screen. Pishen. Conklin or Jordan? Conklin's limited. He's got a hamstring. It's cold. That worries me. You don't loosen up really well in the cold. That is concerning. Brevin Jordan's getting targets. However, San Francisco is really good against tight ends. They're top 2. So that makes it tough. Tyler Conklin's a night game. If he's a surprise deactivation, that's problematic. Green Bay is 7. Green Bay's let me check it. They're 27th against tight ends. So it's a really good matchup for Conklin. If you look up the reports, just look up to see if Conklin, if they said he's a full go, he's a player that maybe Adam Scheffler hasn't really talked about a lot. But if Conklin seems to be a full go, then Conklin has a better matchup. Brevin Jordan is a terrible matchup. But if you're worried about a deactivation, the hamstring, lock it up in the cold, and it kind of be Jordan by default. See if there's somebody you can add off your waiver wire. Gerald Everett's probably rostered, but if he has a phenomenal matchup here, see who else might be available. Looking this through, not so much there. Yeah, tight ends are tough to come by for sure. And Jets are out both their tight ends. So realistically, that's what I'd come down. I don't even see another team that would have a tight end that might be on the waiver wire and useful here. So, yeah, probably Cole Kmet's out there. Cole Kmet has a reasonable matchup and probably sees some targets. Those would be other options if you worry about Conklin. All right, Mr. Imac, Eli Mitchell or Damian Harris. Shanahan said that Eli Mitchell can get all the work he can handle. They're playing Houston, who's like one of the worst run defenses we'll see. So, to me, if Eli Mitchell's getting his work, he's got to get 100 yards, very likely to score a touchdown. Damian Harris, the thing is that Stevenson's in the mix, so they're splitting work. If it's a closer situation in the second half, Harris has been on a hammy, so they probably sit him in the second half. So I think Eli Mitchell is safer, and they both have equivalent upside because Harris has a 3-touchdown game on his resume. Bobby Davidson, you need one. Connor Edmonds. Oh, man, Williams. I don't know which Williams. Mike Williams, Jamal Williams. Repost which Williams it is. I don't want to answer it and then be like unsure. All right, come back to Twitter and YouTube here. Brad, Jared Patterson in Washington, Ramondre Stevenson. It's a tough one. That's a good question. The Jags are decent against the run, terrible against the pass. But Belichick's, they got the power running scheme, and they're not going to slow them down. So let me check Jacksonville's injuries real if there's any defensive side. They got a bunch of guys off of COVID. They had a free safety to right cornerback. That doesn't right defensive end. So overall, Stevenson has more upside than Patterson, I think, because Patterson will split some work with Jonathan Williams. Stevenson, there's a scenario. If they get a lead in the second half, Stevenson could be the closer back. He can get 100 yards and a touchdown in the second half alone. Patterson, I honestly, I think Stevenson has similar floor too, because we don't know how much work Patterson's going to split here. It's a very big variable. We know what Stevenson is. So I think that at this point, the safe play and the upside play is Stevenson. Patterson's intriguing, but we haven't seen enough to know what we really have. And I think in championship week, I think going with the unknown variable, that adds an element of risk that you don't necessarily need to take. He's not a slam dunk from a game. Philly's decent against the run, not great. All right, let's see if we get this question re-asked here. Mr. Ryan, you're welcome. That's awesome. Bobby, tell me which Williams you want in there so I know which one it is. I don't know if it's a flex question or a running back question. JSK, choose 4. All right. Oh, man. Seems like I answered a very similar one earlier. So I'm going to make this real easy. It's got the same reason I gave to whoever the other listener was, Michelle or Rojo. So Rojo's downside is that if he fumbles or blows a pass protection, Arians will pull him out of the game and he won't be back on the field. He's done. So Rojo has the downside. Rojo also has upside because they're playing the Jets. Could break a big run or two, and they could be in great shape. Michelle has a nasty matchup. If Coach McVay, as I keep saying, coaches this game right, he's throwing all day against a defense that can't stop it, but it's great against the run. But Michelle's going to get double-digit carries, so he has a floor. So the floor play, safest play is Michelle. The risk-reward play is Rojo because there's a floor, but there's a massive ceiling against the Jets. There's a couple big runs could easily get him over 100 yards with a score or so. So I think the other 3 you got to play. Swift is back, got to play him. Montgomery's full-time back. Mitchell's supposed to, according to Shanahan, gives all the work he can handle. All right, let me go back to Insta question. Russell Wilson or Trey Lance? Yeah. That's a good question. Wilson just doesn't have a lot of upside. They want to run the ball. I think they're going to be all about running here. I think Wilson gets you 200 yards, 1 or 2 touchdowns. Trey Lance, they're going to trail here. And San Francisco, you can't run on them, but they're very bad against the pass. Their secondary is so beat up, and they can't cover Brandon Cooks with the players they have. So, honestly, I think Trey Lance, to me, because Russ doesn't run anymore. He rarely runs. They're out of the playoffs, so his motivation to run is going to be low. He hasn't had a ceiling game at all, so it's not like I could tell you Russell Wilson has the ceiling game in him right now. Detroit plays hard. So, it's incredible to say this, but I think Trey Lance is going to throw for 240 and 2 touchdowns here, and I think that's a little better than Russ. Wow. But that's where I sit. It might be all garbage time. You might go into the half, and Lance might have 100 yards, and that's it. But in garbage time, he's shown he can get it done. That's tough. If you have a gut feel on it, go with it. I honestly think Lance is a better. Bobby, all right, good, no problem, man. Connor, Edmonds, or Javonte. So Javonte's in a great spot. The Chargers are terrible run defense. They're not going to sell out to stop the run. That's not Coach Staley's MO. It's not going to happen. So, and the Arizona one, Connor looks like he's going to play, and that means it's a timeshare. So they're in the same spot as Javonte Williams. But I'd rather take my chances against the Chargers defense than I would against the Cowboys defense. Cowboys defense has been very good. And the Cowboys, let me just double check, they're very good against receiving backs, if I remember correctly. Yeah, they're top 4 against receiving backs. So that takes a little of the luster away from Chase Edmonds here. Connor certainly can score 2 touchdowns, if he gets to the goal line, because he's their goal line back and he's impossible to stop. Dude's awesome there. But Javonte can score as well. So honestly, the matchup for Javonte is much easier. The workload should be similar to Connor and Edmonds. So that's why, and Connor's not 100%. If Connor was 100%, I would probably lean Connor, but he's playing 70, 80%. So to me, I would recommend Javonte. And like I said, because Dallas is pass defense, running backs, that worries me on Edmonds a little bit. So that's how I would lean on that. All right. Kevon, Amon-Ra St. Brown or limited Mike Evans. St. Brown got it done with Boyle last week. I do worry that Boyle can't do it 2 weeks in a row, but it's a slot receiver, and, getting the ball to a slot receiver is smart business. Seattle has been middling against slot receivers. There's nothing special there. They occasionally get a good pass rush from Carlos Dunlap, and which means the slot would continue to work. St. Brown has a high floor. Mike Evans has a floor of 0. If his hamstring isn't quite right, he also could score 2 touchdowns for you. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Depending on your matchup, if you're in a close game, projected game, or if you're projected as a favorite, then I think St. Brown, you bank those points. And remember, if the Buccaneers get out to a big lead early, they don't have any motivation to keep Mike Evans on the field. But Mike Evans can score you 2 touchdowns. So Mike Evans is your swing for defense guy. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, I don't know if he's doing that 8 for 90 again, but I think he gets you at least 5 for 60. I would think he gets you at least that based on his last 4 weeks have been. And so, St. Brown's your floor play, but Evans is a really, really risky but big reward play. So I think that's how you look at that one. Scott, you need 2 of 4. Evans, Russell Gage, A.J. Green, Boston Scott. I think Boston Scott's in here. He gets that Sanders role. He's been good. Boston Scott's been good. And the way they manipulate the numbers game and the run with the offensive line, with Jalen Hurts, not a difficult matchup. Philly in the past years has been. They're more middling now. They're not a great matchup against. So Boston Scott to me is in. A.J. Green is problematic. He's their wide receiver 1, and Dallas is number 1 against wide receiver 1s. And A.J. Green's at the point of his career where, can he score a touchdown? Sure. But, man, I think it's more about Zach Ertz and Christian Kirk. They've been getting more to love anyway. So I think that's kind of where that goes. Gage, garbage time would be huge. Buffalo overall is a bad matchup. But they got to throw. They're gonna trail. So there's got to be volume there. You think Gage has to see 7 or 8 targets. And he's been productive the last 5 or 6 games. He's had a great floor. So to me, Scott and Gage are the plays. However, if you're an underdog, Mike Evans, I just saw the previous question, he's got 2 touchdown upside in him, 1 long play. He's got that. But they also could pull him from the game, especially if they get a big lead early. He might be a decoy. They've used him as a decoy in the past when he's been hurt. That's something they definitely have done. So to me, Gage and Boston Scott are the 2. But if you got a gut feel on Mike Evans, then you got to roll that way. Johnny, New England minus 16.5. They've taken advantage of bad opponents this year. They haven't been, they've blown out the bad opponents. And Trevor Lawrence, what he hasn't thrown, he's thrown 1 touchdown pass in 6 games? Playing with the 3rd string running back. COVID's been running through their team. I think they're down 3 offensive linemen. New England's not the team to underperform against a bad opponent, especially now they desperately need this game. I think there's a favorable chance. I think there's a 65% chance they cover that. I think there's a very solid chance they cover that. And then Johnny, Everett, Jonnu, Kyle Pitts. So Everett's got 60 yards, 2 straight games, scored in 3 out of 5. He's playing a team they've given up at least 40 yards to 12 different tight ends. Everett's a solid floor player. Russell Wilson definitely throws him the ball. He got punished after the 49ers game when he fumbled twice. The week after, he didn't see much work, but he went right back to his workload after that. Kyle Pitts, look, superstar, right? But, man, the Bills are going to focus on him. So you look at the Bills' defense. Yes, they're 12th against tight end, so it's a reasonable matchup, but he's not going to be treated like a tight end. He's going to be treated as their wide receiver 1. And the Bills are number 4 against wide receiver 1s, number 1 against wide receiver 2s. So my guess is this is a bad matchup for Pitts. They're going to gang up on him. Everett's safer. Everett has a similar ceiling, too. Similar, because Pitts scored once this year? He had a 2 touchdown game. So I based on their role in the matchup, I think Everett's safer. However, if you have a gut feel on Pitts, he's an emerging star. So if you have a gut feel that the star is going to come through and show up in this game, it's going to be 20 degrees, foggy, a little bit of wind. Wind's not a factor there. Is Matt Ryan checked out in a cold game? Maybe. To me, and Jonnu Smith's out. His snap share has gone through the floor. So to me, he could come up with something, but it would be completely not supported. Based on the recency, he's not going to likely see enough plays in the equation. That's what I'd tell you. Kevin, let me see if anybody, before I get you, see if anybody showed up on Twitter and Insta. No, we're still in Insta. If you have any questions on Insta, just put those up there. I'll answer them for you. Kevin, Sony, DJ Moore, St. Brown need 2. DJ Moore's had a great floor all season, whether it's been with Sam Darnold or Cam Newton. Sam Darnold's playing today. He's going to get his targets. Hard to sit him. He should get 50 yards. I'm not worried about Marshawn Lattimore on him either. If that's what happens, if that's what they do, DJ Moore, Marshawn Lattimore will engage a physical receiver. DJ Moore is more twitchy and slippery. So I think he gets his hair. So I think he's fine. I think he's the floor play. On Sony Michel, like I've said throughout the show, if Sean McVay coaches this right, they're not going to run against the Ravens. You throw because they can't stop the pass. If he goes in and understands the tape, Stafford's throwing it 40 times today, and they're going to light him up like a Christmas tree on the board. Michelle, in my opinion, gets about 12 carries, about 45 yards, and we're calling it a day. St. Brown has a high floor. Tim Boyle, I still worry about Tim Boyle. I know last week he got it done with that. So we got that going on. So to me, I think I'm playing DJ Moore and Amon-Ra St. Brown because St. Brown should get you 5 targets more. He's been getting double digits, but he gets you at least 5 here, 5 catches. It's a good solid floor game. And if he gets that 9 or 10 catch situation, you're in really great shape. So that's what I'd say there. All right, let's see what we got here. We go back here. MV Bruno. You got Lamb or Chase. So the Chiefs are great about taking away the big play from the receivers. Their pass defense has been really good over the last month and a half. And they're getting the pass rush. Chris Jones, Melvin Ingram, even Frank Clark a bit if he's in today. And so I don't know how much downfield work Chase is getting. And so CeeDee Lamb, he gets to work wherever. So to me, CeeDee Lamb is a safer play. Too much volatility for Chase. Can he get the big game? Yeah, sure. Of course he can. We've seen it. But we've seen the floor games, and the floor games haven't been very good. So to me, CeeDee Lamb 60 to 40% there. Kabroom, Renfro or Amari Cooper. It's a good matchup for Renfro. Indy's going to give up production in the slot most of the time. But their numbers have been tough. They've not been giving up a lot of passing production. So Renfro's great at getting open. Amari Cooper complained last week he wasn't getting targets, and he got him. Is it a 1 week thing or is it longer? But you know what? Ultimately in this, Renfro's the last 2 weeks, he's kind of calmed down. He had the 300-yard games. So we know he has a floor. And so does Amari Cooper. So I got to bet on Cooper here because Indy may not give up a lot of points to Las Vegas. I think Arizona's rated highly on defense. I think that the Cowboys can come in after last week. It looks like they got their passing game right last week. I think they can come up with a lot of points. So I think they score more points. Therefore, I'm going to go with Cooper, thinking the tide elevates all ships. So if you have a gut feel, go with it. But I think Cooper is going to continue to see targets. All right, let's see what we got here. Insta Reynolds, Scott or Howard. Scott. Howard's got a neck thing he's going to play, but I am concerned that if he gets hit, he comes out, the neck doesn't respond. Boston Scott's got a more secure role here, so that's what I'm going to roll with just because of that. All right, we said Everett. All right, let's see here. I'm going to have to sail through some questions here. We got about 10 minutes left. All right, Bars in the tuck. Full PPR after bench one, Rojo, Harris, Daryl Williams, or Zeke. So Daryl Williams, this is not a good matchup for him. And Derek Gore will be involved. Daryl Williams, he's shown well. And when they have good matchups, he does really well. You're welcome, Kabroom. But I think that overall, this is not a good matchup for Daryl Williams in Cincinnati. To me, it's not. Now, so what I'm going to say is this. I'm going to go back to this. Damian Harris, secure floor, great chance to score. Zeke looks better each week, so I think the knee is getting better. So I think they're in great shape for you. But Daryl Williams has a floor here. He's going to get a certain number of touches. He's going to get some production. But Ronald Jones is your upside guy. And I've said this throughout the show today. If he fumbles, blows a pass protection, Arians will yank him out of the game and you won't see him again. And that's in the realm for him because he does make mistakes. But he has 100-yard and 2 touchdown upside because they're playing the Jets. So if you want the stable floor, 8 to 10 points, I think Daryl Williams is your guy. I don't think there's an upside game here. It always can happen. Any player can go off on any week. We know that. But probability-wise, Daryl Williams is a solid floor play. Probably not a lot of ceilings. Not a good matchup. But Rojo is your swing for defense. As long as he doesn't make a stupid mistake, then I think he's easily better than Williams. Just understand it's in the range of outcomes. If you're watching the game and you're saying, why isn't Rojo on the field? That's your reason. Oh, thanks, Scott. Manny Sanders is inactive. It's wheels up on Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis will be in all 3 receiver sets now. He is in an outstanding spot against Atlanta, who can't defend anybody. Gabe Davis is an outstanding play. Probably slot him in around wide receiver 25 or so among all the players. So he's definitely a strong play. Thanks, Scott. Gustavo, Scott, Patterson, Dare, or Gordon? I think Boston Scott, because the running offense is great. It's a great system, the great offensive line. I think he has the best floor of the group. Gordon, it's a good matchup for Gordon. It's a good matchup for Gordon as well. But I think the probability of the game, the Chargers could fall behind, and that could hurt Gordon. I think Boston Scott's in a game where they probably are able to get a lead in Washington. It's so between those two, it's a gut call, but I think Boston Scott is in a better spot here, especially with Jordan Howard limited with that neck injury. So I think they may want to take it easy on him unless they really have to use him. So I think it could be a 100-yard game for Scott if the Cars, at least you should get at least 65 yards. But I think he could flirt with 100 this week. So I would like him a bit over Gordon, but if your gut says Gordon, and it's definitely merited because it's overall it's a good matchup. Gordon plays the Chargers. The Chargers can't stop the run. So, I mean, there's very good merit there. Jets or Atlanta defense. Brady's on the road. I would say the Jets. I know you're looking DFS here. I'd say the Jets because the Jets are at home. At least Quinn Williams is out. I don't like that. But, yeah, I think Buffalo is less likely to make mistakes here because the thing is, Atlanta gets no pressure. All right, Swift or Penny? That's a tough call. Penny's on fire. He's got an easy matchup. Should get you 100 yards and a score here. Swift playing Seattle. It's a tougher matchup. Seattle's worse against receiving, so they're very good against running backs. Penny has a better floor here. Penny is safer, I think. If you need 25 points out of your running back because of your matchup, Swift has a chance to get there if he catches, 6-7 balls and, break something. But I think Swift has a lower floor here. Penny safer. If you need a monster game out of your running back, I think Swift is more likely to get that than Penny. Dribble. Sony Michel or Jamar Chase? All right, so as I said, Baltimore is nasty to run on. And I don't know if Coach McVay coaches it up right, they're going to throw today. So Michelle might get 10, 12 carries. Jamar Chase is not a great matchup for him. Kansas City's great against downfield receivers. But I think Chase has a better chance of scoring a touchdown than Michelle on this one. Do I want to say Michelle is a higher floor? I don't want to go there. If you're PPR, Chase will catch 4 balls, and I think Michelle only gets 12 carries here, and he doesn't do a lot of them. I think Chase, that gives him a higher PPR floor. And I think Chase can always make a big play. Not a good matchup for Sony. I'm going to say Jamar Chase is close. It's 60 to 40%. Michelle, 40% of the time, will outscore Chase. I think 60% of the time, Chase will outscore him. But based on that, and assuming Coach McVay coaches it properly here, which I don't see why he wouldn't. I don't know why you'd want to run on Baltimore at Baltimore. And then you got another one. Oh, same PPR. Okay, so we just answered it. Good. All right. Ben, Patterson or Burkhead? It's Patterson. Burkhead had a great matchup last week, and they played with a lead. That was huge. That was huge. Playing with that lead was everything, and he took care of business. Now this week they played the 49ers. Unlikely they have a lead. 49ers are number 2 against the run. They're number 7 against receiving backs. So Burkhead's in trouble here. Patterson, he should get the lead. I know Jonathan Williams gets mixed in probably. We don't know. Maybe Wendell Smallwood does. But the odds are that it's a closer game. And Patterson, we don't know, but there's a good chance he gets used in the receiving game. Don't know for sure. But Burkhead has a really bad matchup. And Patterson has at least a decent matchup. So I would say Patterson 60 to 40% there. All right. Any other questions on Insta? No. All right. Taysom Hill or Tom Brady? Yeah, I get it. I do get it. Believe me, I get it. There's a world if the Bucs are running the ball, the Jets are like bottom barrel against the run. They're bottom barrel against the pass. They could pick their poison. Brady could throw 5 touchdowns at 300 yards in the first half and be done. But they could run the ball and say, we're not going to throw so much. Now, Antonio Brown's supposed to play. if they're putting Mike Williams out there, odds are they might want to throw a little bit, even if they're going to use him as a decoy. Taysom Hill, a matchup Carolina. Carolina overall, easier to run on than the pass on. Hill's got that rushing floor. Hill has a higher floor because if they just run the ball, if they just run the ball and Brady doesn't throw a lot here, Brady could throw 190, 210 yards and 1 touchdown. That's possible. But I think if they throw it all, Brady's going to just pile up quickly. If Brady throws 25 pass attempts, his odds of 240 and 2 touchdowns are high. But I still think Hill has a higher floor this week. So, fantasy championship week, man, I'm going to say 65% Brady, 35% Hill. If you need 25 or 30 out of your quarterback, I think Hill, because of the running, has an easier chance of hitting that. I think if you need 15 to 20, Brady more easily hits that. Hill could have a down game. He's been good on the ground, always. It's a tough call. But I do give Brady the lean. I do give Brady the lean for what it's worth. But if you have a gut feel, you have to trust your gut. It's fantasy championship week. All right, let's see. Kabroom. So I'm on 3 formats, all on the RotoWire one here. I am on one you're on. I am on the YouTube and the Twitter feed. If you're on the Twitter and the YouTube feed, you can see the questions that all come up. Most of the questions come up there, and I click them on there. So yes, there. Okay. Yes, Aaron Rodgers has been great over the years in cold weather, even in the playoffs last year. So, yes, that's absolutely true. That's a home field advantage they've always had. That's where they play. That's how they live. So, absolutely correct. You would never trust Shanahan. I wouldn't trust his dad in the championship game. I wouldn't trust Mike Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan isn't as bad as, hey, Elijah Mitchell, he doesn't play games with him. When Mitchell's in there, he gives him the ball. And now Mike Shanahan, all of a sudden, Mitchell would be sitting and some 4th-string guy would be getting running gigs. So I wouldn't trust Mike. Kyle, yeah, I trust Kyle a little bit more. Randy, all right, man. Schultz or Fant? So, look, and you've heard me explain this. At some point, Dallas is going to say, we have 2 superstar receivers, literal superstars. Maybe we throw them the ball. Why do we need Dalton Schultz? And a couple of weeks that happened. But then we had that week, 2 weeks ago, Schultz had more yardage than Cooper and Lamb. It was 2 weeks ago. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? So it's hard to sit Schultz because Schultz most weeks is productive. Fant has an opportunity here. First of all, Drew Lock played him last year. He throws him the ball a lot. So we know that. This is a great matchup. Chargers are horrible against tight ends. I think they're 31 in pass DVOA against tight ends. Great matchup for Fant. So I think he's got a great floor. He's got a ceiling. But, man, Dalton Schultz has been there almost all year. I think Schultz, because of the body of work, is safer because Fant has had down games, and that could always happen. So I think that's what it is. Schultz on a more explosive offense. They're going to score points. So that probably gives Schultz the edge. I'm a Noah Fant truther. That's why I'm struggling because I think Noah Fant is a phenomenal player in a bad spot. But we're counting on Drew Lock or we're counting on Dak Prescott. So I think that makes it like a 60-40 edge to Schultz. Touchdowns today. All right, who did I bet? I had 3 of them in. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor. I did put a Cooper Kupp in there. And who's the third? I put a third in the parlay. I put Rashad Penny in there. I put those 3 in for those. All right, let's see here. All right, I got a couple minutes. Let me see if I can get through. I'm going to get through these last. Oh, I got a bunch. I got to rapid fire these ones, guys, because I got to do another show up at 11:30. Brad. Hey, Brad. Deontay Foreman or Ramondre Stevenson. So it's not a great matchup for Foreman, and he splits with 2 other guys. Stevenson has a great chance to be a closer back in the second half, so I like Stevenson a bit better here against Jacksonville. Wear him down in the second half because Damian Harris still has the hamstring. And Timothy, pick 3, Swift, Penny, Daryl Williams, Cooks. Cooks has a great matchup. 49ers aren't great against receivers. They're going to need him. Penny has a phenomenal matchup, and Swift is a superstar, so I think we got to bet on him. Those are the 3 I'd roll with. Johnny, Boston, or Henderson. Boston's got safer. We know his role. We're not quite sure what Jared Patterson is yet. I have to use him in the league, but Boston Scott, I would take Scott over him because he's a more secure role, and that running game is very effective. And Shane, you need 3. Zeke, Sony, Montgomery, Wilson Jr. I'm rule Wilson out because Elijah Mitchell's in. Patterson. Zeke's looking better each week. Montgomery's a workhorse, so I think those 2 are automatically in. At that point, Sony is the floor play. Tough matchup. But I think Patterson actually has more upside than Sony this week because playing the Ravens, I don't see Sony having a big game. So if you want a safe floor, Sony's your 3rd. If you want to risk a low floor for maybe 15 points, Patterson, I think, in some receiving capacity, could get that. Sally, you've got Penny or Patterson. To me, Penny pretty easily. Penny has a great matchup. The Lions are terrible. Pete Carroll loves Penny. He gets him the ball. When Penny's had a good matchup 2 of the last 3 weeks, he smashed in it. I think that continues. We're at 11 o'clock, so I'm going to call Insta off because nobody has a question there. Let me close that one off, and then I'm going to finish up on what we have on Twitter and YouTube. All right, let's get back here now. Laura and Jim Cooperman, Javonte or Boston Scott? This one is close, and I'm going to bet on the more talented player. I'm going to bet on Javonte. Javonte has a great matchup. Chargers are horrible against the run, and so they both are in great spots. You can't go wrong. If you had a gut feel, trust it. I'm going to go with the better player here. Johnny Football, Jordan Howard is active and will start, but he has the Jordan Howard role. Yes, technically start. He has the Jordan Howard role, though. Boston Scott will have the Miles Sanders role. Thank you for adding that. It does help greatly. No, it doesn't affect Boston Scott's fantasy value. Jordan Howard has the Jordan Howard role. He's going to get a number of carries, but Boston Scott will likely see more work. It's kind of been that way for a while, so I don't see anything changing there. 2 last questions, it looks like, and then I'm going to get out here. Ryan, pick one of the PPR, Evans, Barrios, or Gabe. Because Manny Sanders is out, I'm going to go Gabe Davis. I love Braxton Berrios, so we can get a lot of garbage time here. But Gabriel Davis should be secure against Atlanta, and we know Buffalo doesn't want to run. Mike Evans is too risky here. Gabe Davis has a good ceiling. He has a good floor. I love Berrios, but I think with no Manny Sanders, that's the way I lean. And then, Nick, you got MVS or Dawson Knox. So MVS has been getting a lot of love, get a lot of targets, and he's been productive with them, and Minnesota will have no answer for him. So I think Valdes-Scantling has some real upside here. I don't know how much they need Dawson Knox here. I think that's the thing. Dawson Knox may not be needed a lot. He has 2 touchdown upside, though. They get in the red zone. They like him. So I think at the end of the day, Green Bay may run a lot. They get a big lead. So I'm going to qualify that because Green Bay gets a big lead. They may not need to throw so much. So I think Knox probably has a higher floor because he'll get some work. But I don't know if there's a ceiling game. Valdes-Scantling, in this matchup, he could get 100 yards and a touchdown. So I think if you want a safe floor, you're going to go Knox. If you need 15 points, I think Valdes-Scantling has a decent chance of getting there, but he has a little bit lower of a floor because if they run too much, that's it. Johnny, Happy New Year. Absolute last question. I got to roll. Devontae Smith, Mike Williams, or Gabe Davis? Because Manny Sanders is out, I'm going Gabe Davis because Atlanta, they can't stop the pass, can't stop any receivers, and we know that Buffalo doesn't want to run the ball. Devontae Smith's a better player, but they don't throw so much. And that's the problem. He doesn't get enough targets. All right, everybody, good luck today. I'm out.